Peace and respect. Welcome everyone to Demolish Doctrine, the beginning of the end of these ridiculous freaking religions. This morning, I am very honored to have Plastic Jesus and, of course, Triune William Freeman. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
Strength and honor,
PJ.
Oh, honored to be here.
PJ, the floor is yours because you said you were going to be probably mostly quiet, so I thought I'd hand it to you first.
Oh, wow, cool. Pressure. All right.
Okay, let's skip that. Okay, so I was in on a conversation on a different channel, and I thought some really interesting topics came up, but then other people came in who weren't so interested in talking about those particular topics, and I wanted to bring it back because I think this matters. So, William, you were talking. Your question was concerning Melchizedek, but you also said other things. Would you go into that and repeat the other things?
Yeah. So, in the Christian community, through the different denominations, excuse me, I've heard 4 different embodiments of Jesus. I've heard Michael the Archangel. I've heard Melchizedek the High Priest. I've heard Jesus the Incarnated Son of God. And then Todd told me now to add the burning bush to it. So I was trying to find out, is Jesus Melchizedek? Is Jesus Michael? I mean, is Jesus the burning bush? What can you offer me there, Richard?
Okay, your mic before was really good, and right now it's like in volume alone, everything else is fine, but in volume alone, the volume is changing. So if you could do something more steady, that would be better. But I still heard everything you said. All right, so what I prefer to do on these things is ask non-leading questions on topic, because I think these things are not complicated. All right, so let's start off with Melchizedek because I think it's most principal. Are you aware, Will, of what Melchizedek is king over and what the word Melchizedek means?
Salem and peace.
Okay, yes, Salem means peace. It's literally shalom, right? And the word
Right.
Melchizedek.
Oh no, I can't. I don't know what Melchizedek is.
Well, it's actually a compound Hebrew word. It's Melchizedek. Melchi means king, right? And then Zedek means righteousness. Okay, and I can show you that if you think that's not true. I can.
No,
definition.
I believe you.
Okay, so his total title is King of Righteousness, King of Peace. Tell me who that is.
I mean, it sounds like Jesus.
Okay, great. Then it says Jesus is of the order of Melchizedek. Tell me what an order is.
I guess like an organization or a society.
Yeah, right. No, that's perfect. Okay, just like if I said I'm of the order of the Scottish Rite Temple or whatever. It means I'm part of that club, right? Whatever the club is. Okay. So Jesus is of the order of Melchizedek. Would you agree that I mean, you already said the description of Melchizedek is a description of Jesus.
Yeah, the title and the place and all that put together. Yeah, all that lines up to a description of Jesus.
Okay, now let's apply the word order again. And this answers all your questions.
All right, so the order of the King of Righteousness, King of Peace.
Right. He's of that order. And that is, Jesus is part of a group of like beings, like-minded, like purpose. I don't know how people get around this. I really don't.
Okay, so but you take these stories as not being literal, right? Like
I don't know what you
Melchizedek
mean by
and
literal.
like, do you think that Abraham spoke to a high priest in the desert that was named Melchizedek?
Yes, where high priest means the highest under God. That's what high priest there means. All right? The only one with the right to enter the Holy of Holies, the high priest. And he has to be like perfect in certain ways to be high priest. And it's very, very defined what high priest is and whether or not you qualify. And almost no human would qualify for high priest, right?
Yeah, but the time between this meeting of Melchizedek and the incarnation of Christ,
Right.
like that doesn't really play into what you believe, does it?
No, actually, all of it works just great. I don't,
Okay, well,
I don't have any
was
problems
that
with any of it.
Jesus? Was that Jesus talking to Abraham?
Okay, where Abraham means the father of the multitudes, and not a father of a multitude. It's not what it means. It literally means the father of all multitudes. So, yes, there's an Abraham. He's also called Adam. But
Okay,
Abraham is like talking about his position, where Adam is like describing his physicality.
and what's Melchizedek all about? This order exists, and Abraham is or Adam is not aware of it at the time, right?
I'm sorry, Adam is not aware of it?
Of the order of of this Melchizedek guy, like whatever he's
Well,
in, the order of the King of Righteousness.
Well, when Adam's by himself, there's not a world full of people living in sin and being troubled by that, needing saved. So Adam pre-exists the need for Jesus to do anything.
But we're talking about the story of Abraham, but using. All right, I'm confused. If
Yeah,
Adam
I
and
do that to
If
people.
Adam and Abraham are the same guy, are they the same guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
Adam and
Well, there's
Abraham.
only one Father of all, right? There can't be two or three fathers of all. It can't. That doesn't make
Well, the
sense.
All Father to me is the God.
It's 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 true that in that way, um, the Holy Spirit or the Father represent God. Yeah. I mean, there's
I
nothing
mean,
wrong with that.
when you say the Holy Spirit, that's a whole nother issue for me right
Well,
now.
just drop that off for now. Forget I said it.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay, so I know I've probably said this 1,000 times, and I'll sound like I'm just being insistent, but I think I can give rational explanation to this and justify it from the text. Um, you know the story of Moses and Aaron, and how Moses is slow of speech, and how Aaron speaks for Moses.
hmm hmm
And what Christians tend to ignore in their study of that part of that story is that God says to Moses, he will be as God to Aaron. Now, does that make Moses God? No. It makes him the representative of God. That is, he's the teacher that
He's the
tells
voice
Aaron
of
what
God
God
to
is.
Aaron.
Right. No, it's yes, exactly. So
Okay.
he's the teacher. He is as God to Aaron. And then it happens again between the Father and the Son. So it always has the Father speaking first person as God, which is true to the Son, but it doesn't make it true to the actuality any more than to say something like Moses is God.
Okay, now does this also apply to the characterization of the archangel Michael as being Jesus?
Yeah, that's actually it's actually I think thoroughly expressed.
And then finally the burning bush.
Well, we'll get to that because that's the Holy Spirit. That's kind of, you said that's off topic,
Okay,
but
all right. Okay.
okay, all right. I mean, you've heard me give all my argument, or a lot of my arguments, probably not all of them, for why there must have been several Earths and why we're on an Earth and not the Earth, and why I think it's true that human nature is that we accept stupid stuff and we need corrected. So there's a need for the Christ because of that, and that each Earth would need their own hero because it's a new batch of people. And the text says, I think quite clearly, that once Jesus goes to heaven, he doesn't get to go out to battle anymore, quote unquote. He's too valuable to lose, so he doesn't go out in war. Once he is a king over a heaven, that's it. He's not allowed to go and do other stuff.
No, wait. How does that hold up with the technology they have that resurrected Christ to begin with?
What do you mean? Why is it
Like, why would
contradictory?
it be any kind of risk for Jesus to go out to battle? I mean,
I think
since he can just be.
it's not really a risk. I think it's just a principle thing. It's an honor thing.
Oh, okay. So he's just being excused from having to do it because he's the big guy.
Yeah, he's the big guy. I
Cool.
mean, would you even want him inconveniently out of commission for 3.5 days? Not really.
Yeah.
So, I imagine if. Never mind. There's no way to imagine some government or dictator that would be that important. They aren't. But anyway, peace and respect, Doubting Thomas.
He's here for it.
Okay, okay. So, where were we? Okay, so I'm not asking you to accept, but only try to carry the idea through that there could have been multiple Earths, and we're just one of them, and
I
each
am
one would need
wearing.
a hero. And yeah, okay,
I've got my lenses on, my Richard lenses.
okay.
I keep trying to put your framework back on and follow this, but more and more it's bleeding through. I'll tell you that. Like to my
I don't know.
regular thing.
Well, I mean, I've done so much of that that I've adopted as the main reading frame. Obviously.
I know. I know.
Okay,
That's
so
what makes it hard for me though when I'm listening to you because I'm still trying to keep it compartmentalized.
separated.
Yeah.
You got to keep them separated. So okay, so the word Mikael literally is with a surety. Like I'm absolutely sure of this. It's a statement. It's just a fact. Him like God. That's what Michael means. And the rest of the names that you know of archangels are also names that mean things like that. It's like saying the archangel is God.
Well, everywhere there's an L, it's something of God. Like
Yes, Jabriel,
Samael.
Uriel, all of the
Right.
yes, all of them. Right. Now, there's only one position in heaven to say he's like God. There aren't multiples of that. Um, so I think it works well that Michael was a Jesus, just not of this particular earth. And Uriel was, and
Uh,
Jabriel was.
I got to stop for a second. We were talking about the angels and the archangels, but there was the Lucifer, and that doesn't have anything of God in the name.
That's Azazel, El.
Well, Azazel, yeah, but that's why are we saying that that's the same as the Lucifer?
Well, Lucifer's just a different language to say the same name.
What light bearer?
Enlightenment, mate.
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah.
And what does the Azazel mean?
That's like it's one of those god names ending in L.
Right, but it'd be interesting to know if it had anything to do. I mean, because what Azazel did was to bring wisdom or technology and things
Yeah,
to man.
yeah. Splicing of plants, pouring metal, all kinds of cool stuff. Painting of eyes, which is apparently not such a great thing, but I think women look good with painted eyes. Um, yeah, brought knowledge. That's right.
So I guess he could be the Lucifer.
He was a light bringer. Yeah,
Then
it
why is
doesn't mean
he
he
also?
remains in
Why does
that.
the scapegoat go to Azazel?
Why does the scapegoat? Do you mean literal scapegoat?
The one
Or
used in the ceremony where they cleanse Israel of sin, they cast the sins on the
okay,
scapegoat and send it
I see
into
what
the
happened
wilderness
there.
for Azazel.
I see that. That is a conflation of the terms Satan and Azazel, Lucifer. Those are conflating the two beings.
In the Bible?
No, in Christian talk, it's not conflated in the Bible.
Because I'm not even looking at the Satan in that at all. I don't even know
But
what
you
to think
just
of
put
that.
but you just put Lucifer in the position of Satan.
No, I didn't. I was talking about Azazel in the desert, like the practice of doing it, of
The
taking the
scapegoat.
sins, the scapegoat, and sending it out into the desert for Azazel, whether
Where
that's
does
in
it say
place
for
of or to.
Azazel? Where does it say that, Will?
I, okay, so I don't know that it says to or for.
Okay.
It could just be that is as Azazel, being abandoned or cast out or whatever. But
Okay.
there is the practice of the scapegoat, and it has to do with
Yeah.
Azazel. I don't remember where it is, and I think it
Okay.
might be in Leviticus.
Okay. So where wilderness means a place that will kill you, and where the end of the earth is a thing that will kill you, and how Satan is cast into the pit of hell and the lake of fire and will die. The same thing with a tame goat that you put out into the wilderness. And it's physical symbology talking about how your sins are not your fault. And they actually are put on Satan. It's his fault.
Okay, but I don't think that. I think you brought Satan into that.
Well, that's why a goat.
What does Satan have to do with a goat?
He's like compared to a goat.
I thought he was the accuser, that he was working for God to.
Well, that's what he does, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just his
What do you
part
mean
of
working
the
for
court.
God? I guess in a way,
His
yeah.
job is to accuse. I mean, it's like a court case. He's saying this is what man is, and
No,
God's
that's
saying no,
fine.
they're redeemable. They're this
Okay,
thing. They're
no,
not.
well, let's talk about that a little bit. Do you believe that the Father could accept lies?
Would accept lies?
Yeah. Do you think the Father would
I don't
believe lies?
know.
Okay. When it
If he
says
knows
Satan
their
is the
lies, he will
accuser,
believe
what's that?
them. If he knows their lies, he wouldn't believe them.
Is there any way he could not know us well enough to know whether or not someone was lying about us?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's something you'll have to consider, I guess. But if it were true that the Father knows us well enough to know whether or not someone is telling a lie about us or telling the truth about us, then he wouldn't accept a lie if he knows us that well, right? In which case, Satan standing before God accusing man is not something that the God would listen to or the Father would listen to. They wouldn't believe it. It'd be a waste of time.
I
But I
don't know
do
that he's
know.
accusing us to God. I think he's
Very
accusing
good.
us to the hosts of heaven.
Oh, accusing us what?
To the hosts of heaven, the other
That's just
sons
that
of God.
you may as well say the same thing. It's like saying, don't. Would the angels know what God knows? Well, are the angels in heaven with God?
Yeah, but does that mean that they have equal knowledge? That the same amount of
It's a
knowledge
great
that the
question.
Father has?
It's a great question, but I think I have a better solution to the phrase, that verse. I know of a set of beings that will not only listen to but also believe lies about human beings.
They can't have the
Human
same set
beings.
of knowledge as God because they
Yeah.
would because they wouldn't be able to have the same knowledge as God because God wouldn't not have to have sent them. They've already done it.
Right.
Like
If they're
the
sent by
hosts of
God, they
heaven would
must
be
have the.
lesser.
I mean, just like
But
if you're talking about the knowledge of what God is, and
but I do believe that we do accept lies about each other and about ourselves all the time.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And that's what causes wars and hatred and fear and I mean all the bad stuff in our lives. That's what's I mean all the emotional bad stuff. It's based on lies.
We're predisposed to lie and war.
Well, we're predisposed to ignorance. We're born with it.
Right, and how we express it is, and we do gain pleasure from combat and conquering and things like that. It's part of what drives a lot of us.
That's also true, but I think that's just based in our need and want to individually and survive as families. But I think it's being abused and misguided. And I mean it's evident that if you put down your gun and I put down my gun, there's no war. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Okay. So I want to go back
we'd have to be able to
because that.
trust each other though,
Yeah, I know.
because one of us could
That'll.
reach down and pick the gun back up.
Yeah, I know. I see. Yes, and all that and more, and worse. But okay. All right. So if there have been multiple Ers and there have been multiple Jesus and the words high priest and king and judge and all of those terms is not for some mass of people from an earth to fill in heaven, because how could you have everybody judging everybody? All chiefs and no Indians makes for a bad tribe. But you could have a singular being doing that with everyone, for everyone, if he had the righteous authority to do it. So it just seems evident to me that what it's talking about is Jesus. And then how many times does it say that there's this judge character? Gosh, go look. It says the Father is righteous, singular judge. And then it says Jesus is righteous, singular judge.
But it also says that Jesus is an advocate. So isn't that a conflict of interest?
Yeah, it's all very steeped in our favor. Yeah.
So these different worlds, they're happening in a succession, one after the other, not all at the same time, because one would have to give the message to the next, kind of
Right.
until they're all there. Okay, because first I was picturing like a blanket of, well, I don't want to, like, it doesn't sound crude or anything, but marbles. So now I see them kind of like spinning through and moving across now. But okay, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I think it's the earth, meaning dirt, is place where there's dirt, and that's what earth means. And so when the angel says earth, they're talking about place where there's dirt. It's literally what they're saying. And it is often in the text that I see it's referring to a continuous situation that never ends. But then in the story, this earth ends. So the only thing I can make of that is there's always an earth in progress. And there's always the next one that's going to be collected, destroyed. Always.
Okay,
And that seems endless.
What is the purpose then if it's endless? Why is this just is this the mission? What's
the mission
going
of whom? The angels that follow the Yod He Vav He? Yeah, it's their mission.
Okay. To populate and to cultivate, to continue to install kings, righteous kings, obviously.
You could call them the maker of kings and the fillers of heaven.
But heaven's the craft, right?
Yeah. But there's always a new heaven. They have to add to it because, well, people take up space.
But okay. So the New Jerusalem that touches down the city that sets down on earth.
That descends from God's heaven, right?
Right. I know it's huge. You've described it as huge, but this is a base point for an expansion, a further expansion of the people that are in that city, right?
Oh, well, coming down from God's heaven is all the rest of it described. And then
what I'm saying is
that
we continue to populate the planet that we're on.
No, sir. The
We
planet
don't
gets
do any
destroyed.
more populating after that. So it's just I don't understand what the mission is then. I thought Jesus was going to be the God, the father of this next.
Some of this, to answer you well, I think, is going to involve me being a little bit experimental. Things I can't prove, but I think they're necessary. Okay? And I think the reason that we are called Adama, which just comes out man in the text, but it means a specific kind of thing. It's not so vague as man. Man is kind of like saying, conscious being, and that's not a very good definition. But Adama means the animal that turns red in the face like the red clay of the earth. That is the animal that has emotions. That's why our face turns red. So it's like...
Wouldn't that also mean like that? Because we felt supposedly ashamed.
What?
We were naked and ashamed, and we turned red.
No, we weren't ashamed. We were naked and unashamed. We're naked and we knew it not.
No, I was talking about after something happened and it says we were ashamed.
When God comes into the garden in the cool of the day, right before the end of the day, right before it's too late.
Yes.
So heaven shows up to the earth when it's almost too late and saves our ass. That was the plan the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam and Eve representing male and female on the earth. We will do everything that it says that we will do First, we'll try to cover ourselves with poor garments. That is, we'll look up in the sky and go, holy crap, an alien invasion. That's a misunderstanding. Now, it gets you a little bit further than you were before. Are we alone in the universe? Okay, great. Gets you a little bit further, but not far enough. And then God has to provide for us good, warm, durable, soft clothing. Sheepskins. Something that'll last and, doesn't poke you. Peace and respect, Cryptomeria. That's talking about correction of the other idea. And the original idea was complete nakedness, which means people, whether they believe in God or not, have almost nothing but misunderstandings about God and heaven until its arrival, which is why he says, I will be what I will be. I'll expose it to you later.
All right, well, then help me with Cain and Abel then, and Seth.
Oh, wow. Okay, Seth. Okay, let me go back. Cain and Abel. The word Cain, or we say Cain, it means to transition, to change, to repent, ideas like that. Okay? And the name Abel is vanity, like valuing material wealth and valuing how pretty your body is. It's narcissism. And that's what those two words mean if you said them to a Hebrew-speaking person in Hebrew without the reference of the story. Okay? But they work really well in the story, including all of the descriptions. Like Cain goes into a wilderness. Well, let me start at the beginning. Cain offers up a sacrifice of grains, right? He's a farmer, right? To the Hebrew people, the stuff that grows out of the dirt isn't alive. It's the unalive stuff. It's the not so damned important stuff. It's not that cool. It's just like material wealth in the story. And then fleshy stuff like sheep, which is why vanity is making flesh. Vanity and fleshliness. So he's offering sheep. And to sacrifice sheep to God is the right idea. That is, to sacrifice your fleshliness and your vanity and your materialism is the right idea. That's why it's pleasing to God. So money, like giving money to a church, giving grain to God is the wrong freaking idea. That's not what makes God happy. So he says, you look pissed off. And rightfully so, but don't you understand that I don't want this crap? And Cain goes, well, what the hell do you want then? So Cain goes into a wilderness. That means a place that can kill you or a place that you're unfamiliar with. That's what a wilderness is. And he confronts his brother vanity in the wilderness. And transition confronts vanity and slays him in the field. And by God, God noticed. Yeah, he noticed. Transition just got religion. He just figured it out that he is dualistic, that he's not just material being. Random set of processes creates me, and here I am, and nothing has meaning. He figures all that out, and God goes, cool beans. He goes, but then transition goes, look, everybody's going to reject me. And God's like, you're right, because you figured it out, and they haven't. So you're a vagabond now. You go, well, this burden's too great. He says, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you.
What's the mark of it? What's the mark of transition?
The mark of what?
Mark of Cain. The transition. The mark.
It's the same as the mark for the 144,000. It's to be marked with God in your forehead. It's the difference.
And he thought people would kill him because of that.
Yes.
Because
of course
having
they try to kill him. Well, yes. Don't they try to kill the one with the truth?
Oh, I don't know. I've never had the truth, apparently.
No, but you know of the story of the one with the truth who they chased down and killed.
Right, the same thing as Plato's cave.
Who's avenged sevenfold. You already know this story.
So then Seth is the immersion of the new, like, post-transition, post-vanity.
Yeah, Seth is a replacement. So that's the beginning of a new story. And I need to look up. I can't recall right now what the word Seth means. It's going to be important to the story. It'll refresh my memory. The names are the stories.
I've noticed that with the way that you read it, they're integral and crucial.
Okay, I know it's Sheath, actually, not Seth. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, 8352 Sheath, rooted in sheath. Oh, to a point or in place is the root, and then the derivative. Oh, emplaced as a substitution. It's substitutionary emplacement. He's Jesus. It's another
Okay.
story of Jesus. He's the emplaced substitution. Safe.
All right. Well, walk me through it.
Tell me the story of Shaith.
After Cain kills Abel, Abel's cast into the land of Nod. Adam and Eve try again. They have Seth. Seth
Right.
is very, I guess, there's not a whole lot said about him, right? He was pretty good,
Uh-huh.
pretty good lad. I don't know what else comes after Seth. I've never really paid a lot of attention to him.
That's because it's very, very brief, and it goes into like, okay, and to Seth, to him also was there born a son, called his name Enos. Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord. People start calling on the name of the Lord, the actual God, when they know what the actual God is. You can't call on.
What's his
If I
son's
thought
name?
that Jesus was Fred Flintstone and I'm always calling out to Fred Flintstone, I'm not calling out to Christ. Anos.
And
Enos.
what does it mean?
It's always a good question.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about the importance of names, so I'm not going to let a single one go
Well,
by.
right on. I'm clicking buttons. Let me click some
Don't let me
buttons.
rush you. Don't let me rush
No,
you.
it's fine. I'm not rushing.
I appreciate the hospitality.
I mean, I'm Italian and Irish. Definitely not Russian. Desperately wicked is the root idea. Enosh, which you probably recognize. A mortal,
Enoch,
not
right?
immortal, a mortal. Hence, a man generally, singularly or collectively, mankind. To be
Calls out to
thirsty, to be
God.
certain, a chapman, diverse, in the flower of their age, a husband, a certain mortal man, people, person, servant. So it's desperately wicked. It's servant to the desperately wicked.
And that would be Enoch or Enoch. You said Enosh?
Enos. Yeah, Enosh.
Enos.
Yeah.
Are
Well,
we
it's
talking
got the
about the
same root
same?
word as Enoch.
Are we? Okay. But this is not Enoch. This is
Not Enoch, no. It's a different variation of the word.
interesting, though, because
So the
story
servant to the
describes Enoch.
desperately wicked is born, and people come to call upon the name of the Lord.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. That does sort of describe the Enoch of the book of Enoch, even though you're saying it's not Enoch, because
That's why I'm
he was the
sure it has the
messenger
same
back
roots
and
for.
forth for
Yes,
the
that's right.
for Azazel.
That's right. And what you just said is exactly why I say there's only 20 stories and they just repeat. They just keep saying the same thing again and again and again.
Well, here recently, I mean, there was a time I was a young Earth creationist, and slowly my idea of that has kind of been pushed back further and further, but still with the idea that I have no concept of how old this Earth is and how
Why do you
old.
need that?
Just because these things, like you said, these stories have been repeating over and over in here, so this is not an accurate way to determine the things that were going on, like how long things have gone on, how many civilizations. And really, is it that many? Is it
Yeah,
that old?
what is it? Something about 150 or a little less than that years ago. some preacher said, "Oh, I could estimate the age of the human beings and add it all together and get the total age of the Earth back to Adam." No, you can't. No, you can't. First of all, he assumed a generation was 40 years. Why not
Right.
16? That's the youngest at which, on average, people could reproduce. 16 years, right? So why didn't he assume it's 16, which would have put the date at a little under a third of 6,000 years, or just about 2,000 years? Why didn't he do that? Because you
Okay, but there are
can't.
ages. There's ages assigned to these names, and I'm wondering if these are time periods or events that are happening. If these are measurements of how long the event was happening that the name
Oh,
describes.
that's okay. Well, we'll
Like one
okay.
was like 970 years old, and you're like,
What's the
that
number
doesn't make
9
sense.
mean?
I don't.
Well, how about 100? What's 100 mean?
One
Because you
more
know
than
to the
100. I mean, one more than 99. I don't know what you.
to us, yeah. Okay, let me just go over these real quick with you, and then we'll talk about certain ones. This is Hebrew gematria, where numbers have intrinsic meaning. Okay, for anyone who didn't know that. So number 1 means God. If you see the number 1, it literally means God, and you have to think of it that way. Just like 7 means perfect. Right? The Christians have adopted 7 means perfect, then they throw away all the rest of them. Don't know why. 2, union. 3, harmony. 4, creation. Earth, air, wind, and fire. The 4 corners of the earth, the cardinal
I'm interested
directions.
in 5.
5, grace.
Hmm.
6, not perfected. 7, perfected. 8, fat or muscular or above perfect. 9, transitioning into the next thing. 10, governance and loyalty. 11, disorder needing judgment. 12, power and authority of God. 13, rebellion and lawlessness. 14, spiritual perfection. You notice it did the 6-7 thing again right there.
But wait, when you put them, why wouldn't you look at 1 and 3 and 13 and then break them back down? Like, why would you? What? Okay,
It
you've
would
got
be
1 and 3. Why do we go past the 10 mark?
that's
I don't understand.
okay. So that's why it will use words like hundred or tens
Okay.
to break it up for you, so you don't have to guess.
Okay. All right.
It always says how to break it up even within the number. It'll use the word hundred, whereas in English you wouldn't write the word hundred in the middle of a number 110. You wouldn't do that.
Nope. Nope. No, you
You
wouldn't.
just write 110. That means in the Hebrew they'll say hundred, so you can't mistake it.
So it
Um,
would say the number 13 and then 100 behind it, right? If they were saying it was 1,300 children of Israel or of this
right,
tribe, but
right.
not to be taken as a literal number of people, but
Yeah,
as a message within. Wolf.
yeah, and it'll always use nothing or 10 or 100 or 1,000 to tell you how to read the number. So you never have to guess. It's not a problem. 15, rest. 16, manifest love or arrival. Manifest love and arrival is the same thing. That's interesting. Overcoming the enemy is 17, 18, bondage, 19, faith, 20, redemption, 30, callings, like being called of God. 40 means heroic trials, both of daytime trials of heat and nighttime trials, like a winding staircase with no light. Imagine trying to follow a crickety winding staircase at night with no lights. Try to imagine that. 50 is the year of Jubilee. 60 means new life. 70 means perfect spiritual order. 80 means enduring freedom. 90, saint sifted or judged. And 100 means archangel or God's elect. So they'll have these numbers of, and in the English we read it as ages of people. You're going to have to show me some camera there, IOP something person. And they immediately dropped out as soon as I said it. So I'll give you a for instance in the King James you know me to not be a liar, so I'm not going to bother to insult you by showing you. One of the numbers in the King James came out 100. No. Hold on a second. 318. Now you might have noticed there's 4 digits there, and that's not 100. Okay? So when they translated in the King James, they just wrote 318. They left out the other 3, which you can't do because it's literally taking part of the Bible out. According to the Bible, you can't do that. So 300 would be 318 is the sentence: harmony, God's elect, harmony, bondage possessed. So it's like the idea of harmony causing people to be elected by God, and then the idea of harmony again, overcoming bondage, our slavery,
Harmony
and
of
our
what?
possession of the earth. What's that?
Harmony of what? Exactly.
Oh well, angels, heaven, us, all together, harmony.
All right. So how does that apply to the individual?
Well, it's talking about an individual doing that. It
Well, I
just
know you're
comes out
talking
as
about.
their age.
You,
Okay.
you said harmony's number 3. What number is? I think it's number 3. What number is
Yeah.
bondage?
18.
Bondage. My gosh, you're right. Yeah, that's good. Bondage, 18.
All right.
So they the Christians were trying to like separate themselves, especially in the early church, and make themselves different from quote unquote pagans and Jews and all those. So they said, well, we're going to reject all this astrology stuff. We're going to reject all this numerology stuff, and we're just gonna write it as we see it, and we're going to ignore what other people say about it. And they did, and then that we call a Bible and the Word of God. Because they wanted to be different.
But as the individual reading this is out of our hands entirely. There's no choice for us that we really have to
That's true.
worry about.
That's also true.
But we do. But there are ideals that this group, these beings, would like us to conform to, right?
Ideals to conform to defeats the idea of grace.
Well, I just mean as far as a way of behaving that they would prefer over other types of behavior.
Sure, but Jesus sums that up in 2 statements.
Okay, help me.
Love the Lord thy God with all thy strength. With your life, devote yourself to God. Love your brother as yourself. That's
Yeah,
it.
well, that's the second one's easy then for your average person, but as far as love your God, I'm learning all these different ideas about who the God is. Even
Okay.
amongst the Christians. So it's hard to know. I just was talking to Sammy and some of the others, Hillary's and Cerberus and all. I've really found it hard to know how to pray anymore. Whether that I can pray in silence or whether I can have to pray out loud. Is the God able to hear me, and does it matter?
I suggest learning prayer and until you have actual communication, which is verifiable and falsifiable, and then you falsify it and you find it true, and then practice that. And don't worry about all these rules.
I just talk to I don't have a name for it. I just talk to the Father.
Do you get information?
Yeah, guidance all the time.
Okay, do you get information? Here's the what I think is a real tell about the information that I receive in prayer that is not my imagination, not me confirming things. It's outside of my personality range, and it's something I'd never thought of before, even if I struggled with something for 20 years. I never came up with this answer. And I think that's rational justification for saying it wasn't me.
All right, I'll tell you. I could be totally wrong about this. Okay, but since early on, whenever this thing started making conversation with me, if you will, or guiding me. I questioned it because it led me to a Baptist church, which I was in quick fashion excommunicated from, and
Yeah.
it's led me to several different other churches and denominations, and then beyond that to different cults and things, not necessarily to join, but to see. And it
Well,
feels like at this point, what
you
it's
don't see
wanting
an
me to
overall
see.
message there?
Yes, yes, that's what I'm getting
Okay.
to, and it's hard for me to just say, but it feels like the message is that nobody gets it.
That is the message, that nobody gets it. We're not supposed to.
Yeah, but I don't like to make a claim that of certainty that that's what it's trying to teach me. I'm saying that's what I'm observing. There could be
Okay, well let
more,
me
there could be less, and I could be wrong.
let me ask you what Jesus does, why that's important, and why he's different from everyone else.
All right. What Jesus does and why he's different. Well, it's his responsibility to to redeem, I guess, to uh, pay some sort of price for us, right? He's
Right?
got this job to do that's beyond my understanding, but I know it's to
That's okay.
bridge. It's to bridge, to create a bridge between the creation and the creator, or
Right.
the man and the God,
People in heaven. Heaven and people. He's the bridge. Yeah.
whatever that is, whatever that's all
Yeah.
about.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the way that I
How does he
look at
do
what it
that?
is. And there's some sort of currency there that I don't understand with his sacrifice, with his blood. I would
Okay,
say that
but the rest of the job, not the death and resurrection itself, but the rest of it. What's the testimony of Christ?
he is the Son of God, and or, I don't know. You tell me, man. I don't want to just babble.
No, no, you're doing great. I mean, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. It's just that,
No,
everything you're saying
I
is
would be
fine.
embarrassed to press further and pretend that I know anything.
Okay. You have heard, but I say. That's the testimony of Jesus Christ.
He
Correction.
definitely did a lot of correction. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. He did a lot of correction.
Okay, now how is he able to correct people with this authority? Like he knows what he's talking about, not like a scribe. Where the hell's that come from?
Well, he said it's from God, from the Father.
Right. Okay. And if he's the Christ, it really is from God. And
Yeah,
he's correcting them. That is
yeah,
Jesus' job because of God and God's education of Jesus is to correct people. Who? All of them.
yeah. To set the
Okay, then
example.
everybody's wrong.
Right, but why? Okay, is he not doing that with everyone? Is he not pulling everyone to see that nobody's got it
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's the point. He has to be the first to have it right, which means everyone else has it wrong, definitionally. And here people argue in back rooms and online about what's the right way to look at it.
So
The
this
right
is
way
a
to look at
favor
it
to me.
is it's not for you to know. That's the right way to look at it.
So this is the favor that he's telling me. Look, nobody gets it. It's not for you.
Yeah, that's right. Which is why all grace and all you have to do is accept heaven. That's what is on the people. That's it.
Then why do I feel like there's something that I'm supposed to do?
Because you're a curious person who's been compelled by the society you've been raised in, and you want to know the answers to these things. Well, inquiring minds want to know, I guess. But I promise you that you are Adam in the garden, and when God shows up in the cool of the day, you will feel naked.
Did I ever tell you the dream that brought me to this weird farming thing?
I'd hear you.
You would? All
Yeah.
right. Well, it was when I was learning and I was reading the story of Jacob and Laban and the way that Laban was trying to cheat him, and that God took the fewest of the sheep, the
Right.
least desirable, and then he multiplied them using the weird staff with the strips of
Stripes.
bark. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so and no matter what Laban tried to do, everything that Jacob touched, God multiplied
Yep.
and made provision for. And then, I had just read about the garden and all that. And then I started having these dreams about Jacob. And for me, it wasn't sheep, though. It was goats. I don't know why, but it was always goats.
That's
And
an
I
okay
mean,
variation.
I was very young and very zealous. And I got into clearing my land with an axe, just making, trying to make space for these goats. And my family came to me and said, "Look, this land's not meant for that. You can't do that here. It's been tried before. You need to give up." And but I kept really feeling motivated that this is what I was supposed to do. And everyone tried to convince me that it was some sort of symbolic thing. You need to go to the sheep and you need to tell them about the shepherd and and I was like, I don't know anything about all that. I don't know. I really don't, but this is what I feel like he wants me to do. And the more that I thought about it, I was like, I think it's this idea of trust, because everything that it was for Jacob was trust. He had no
You
way
know
to
what the word
accomplish
you know what the word Jacob means? You might find
deceiver,
this interesting right now. No, no, no,
deceiver.
no.
No,
No.
he who
The
wrestles
younger
with God.
one, no, that's Israel. The
Oh,
Jacob means supplanter. It means he takes a position you think he shouldn't hold.
I thought, okay, supplanter. I thought it was deceiver, but supplanter.
Yeah,
Now, how does
supplanter.
that
It's not a
apply?
negative thing.
He took the position away from Esau, right?
Not really. It was never Esau's position. I mean,
Sounds like the transformer nobody wants for Christmas. Thanks, Mom. Supplanter.
thanks, Mom. I got dump truck transformer. Great, Mom.
Yeah.
Dork. Anyway, yeah. Um,
Is this a
yeah,
Pinto? I'm
it's
sorry.
continuous in the text, Will, that the younger sibling gets the greater blessing. In fact, there's no exception to that in the stories. Um, and what I think that means is that the Jesus for this earth is not going to be the eldest boy. He's going to have older brothers, and he's going to supplant them, which is why that story is there.
Well, I took all this craziness that I was dealing with, and I just kind of boiled it down to, first off, God's trying to show me that nobody gets it. He's trying to show me that I'm never going to get it, and
Yeah.
that I need to trust Him and be dependent on Him and not man. And
I think that's very
that's all
good.
I've in this whole journey of whatever going on 20 years now. As far as I've gotten, it's not even 20 years. It's been like 15 years. But as far as I've gotten, it's these things, and it just feels even that feels condescending and wrong to say to anyone out loud. That's just what I feel like I've been led to see. You know how arrogant that
Well,
sounds to all these other Christians and all that. It
well,
just
of course, that's why people think I'm arrogant. Same reason. But it seems evident to me that the stories can't be read a different way than what you're talking about right now. And like you can justify guilt in the face of mistakes and knowledge. Right? That's what guilt is you had knowledge but you did something against the knowledge anyway and you erred. That's what a mistake is, right? That's what guilt is. So you can justify guilt in the face of knowledge and erring. I get that. You can justify um, you can justify grace in the face of ignorance. That makes sense. You can't justify guilt in the face of ignorance. You can't say someone didn't know and is guilty. And that's what Christians do. Because the Bible says in no uncertain terms, my people perish for a lack of understanding. Man's ways are not my ways. Man would act in my ways if he knew them, but he doesn't know them, so he doesn't do them. And it says it repeatedly. And then the Christian in their pride says, I know enough to be guilty in the eyes of God. Well, you proud bastard.
that's a complicated thing.
You can't be guilty without. You can be guilty in perfect understanding.
But
Totally.
they're reading that book, and again, it's not made easy, or at least not with all that goes on, all the tradition. It's not made easy to say that this is not about me.
Well,
This is not about me
it's
falling
definitely
short.
pointed. It's definitely pointed towards someone reading it,
Hmm.
and it definitely makes sense that there is an intended reader because you can see huge promises in the story.
Yes,
That totally all makes sense.
Yep, to everyone that it doesn't, like you said, when the Christians make the prayers and they don't come true, then a lot of them are like, well, then it's wrong, it's bullshit. I've heard Wild Heart say it. I've heard lots of people say, I
Of
prayed and I got
course.
nothing.
Yeah, but it's not being promised to them that their prayers would be answered. It's promised to him who can pray in the name of Jesus Christ.
And like, what about all the people that don't have like any weird events or things making them think they're crazy? Like these, like the guidance that you got to the hospital. Tell me you didn't feel a little crazy.
What do you mean? At the time? No, I'd
Yeah,
already done it hundreds and hundreds of times. I already knew it was going to work. Now, the first couple times I felt like this is bullshit.
right. It's a
Like
little
I've got to be
crazy.
losing my mind. I'll tell you the first time.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm reading the Bible for the first time in my life because all of a sudden I'm interested, right? This is like 2 to 3, 4 weeks into this whole experience. Like I'm brand new. I'm a baby, right? So I'm camping, buy a coffee and camp or a soda and camp at like a Burger King or a McDonald's or whatever, wherever I can get shelter. It's cold outside. This is West Virginia, and it's like late fall into early winter, that kind of stuff, right? It's freaking cold. So I'm camping at a Burger King, and they said, "I'm sorry, sir, you have to go. We're closing." And I'm like, "Hey, can I get a trash bag?" Because I always ask for a trash bag because if you're walking the streets, you always need a trash bag. Anyway, so I take my Bible, I stick it in my backpack, and I walk out the door. And I come to the sidewalk, and I'm just like, I don't know this town. I don't know where anything is. You know, 'cause I'm not in my hometown. I've already been walking. So okay, um, I need shelter, and I just turn real slowly, and I feel toward mom or home. I feel toward what's right. Takes me to the left. I go about 300 feet, and this time I'm not asking. It has to nudge me because I don't know when to turn next. Right? It nudges me to turn left. I turn left into this driveway. House for sale.
Wait,
Nice little
wait, wait,
house.
wait. I need to ask you the nudge. Tell
Yeah.
me about the nudge.
It felt like, okay, I could express it like this.
A mental bump.
I can express it like this, and in some way of perception, it's kind of what I experienced. But this is not perfectly true because I know it was only in my brain. It felt like someone grabbed hold of my backpack and was just like pulling ever so gently on my backpack to turn me on one side. Now, I know that's not true. Nothing had a hold of my backpack, but that's what it
It's
felt like to
That's
me.
different than, but that's cool. All right, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so I walk into the driveway, little house for sale. There's no curtains in the windows. Nobody's living there. Um, and I look at the carport under the house because West Virginia, yeah, everything's on a hill. Um, and I go, oh well, that's locked. And I see there's alarm stickers, and I'm not touching that. That can't mean what. That can't mean the. That can't be the shelter that you're directing me toward, right? Um, and concrete driveway and a handrail, and everything's on a hill. There's a little drop off there on the other side of the handrail, about 3 feet, which is probably why they put the handrail there. And I come to a stop, and I'm looking at it, and I said, this isn't shelter. And that tug on the backpack turned me 180 degrees, walked me back out to the street. And I'm like, well, am I just stupid? Or are you not giving me this shelter? And what's going on? I was really confused. Turns me left down the sidewalk, turns me left on the intersection, around the house, turns me left into the backyard, turns me left. There's the handrail again. Now it's 3 feet elevated in the air from my position, and I laughed. Okay, I should have climbed over the handrail. I get it now. I'm stupid. Fine. Turns me around again, about 30 feet, and there's a stand of pine trees. They're about 40 feet to 60 feet tall, depending. Stand of pine trees. And I look at that and I go, I must be confused. And this is the first time I ever got like physical directions to a place that I needed to find, you know. Not the first incident of prayer, but I had a lot of doubts. So I stand there and I go, God, this isn't shelter. And he goes, yes, it is. I go, no, it's not. It's starting to rain. It's cold outside. Pine needles don't stop water, you know, not shelter. He goes, yes, it is. And I'm standing there arguing with him. And I stood there so long that I shifted all my weight to one side, onto one hip like a person will. And then that got uncomfortable and I shifted to the other hip. And when I did that, my head moved in comparison to pine needles. And when I moved compared to pine needles, something white moved the other way. What I'm saying is something on the other side of the trees in an undeveloped area where there's not street lights back there and stuff, something white. I went, what the hell is that? And I put my head down to the grass and I look, and there's a camper shell for a pickup truck in the middle of the stand of pine trees. And the branches had never been trimmed. And I got to do like a low crawl to get to the camper shell. But it wasn't locked. I didn't even have to pick it up. I turned the handle, opened right up. It didn't even squeak. There was some green, what is that? Probably algae growing on the outside of it because it's been wet and in the shade for a really long time. I don't know how long. It's dark out by now. I crawl in the thing. I move a couple pine cones, fluff up some pine needles, roll up my jacket, slept like a baby. One of the best nights of sleep I've ever had, to be honest with you. I wake up in the morning. I mean, a little rain on the roof, little tin roof. It's beautiful, right? I wake up in the morning. I open up the camper back. I crawl out, put on my jacket, and I look around. There is no path in and out of here. I'm going to have to crawl out. What's the point in you saying that, Richard? That camper shell must have been there longer than 30 years.
Exactly. There's no path in. It's overgrown. You had to crawl to get in. So, yeah, nothing has been through there in a long time, at least not moving a camper shell.
Right. So who could have known that camper shell was there? You see the problem?
I guess, no, well, I mean, I guess I never entertained during the whole story that you could have been wrong or that it wasn't God. I mean, that might have been my own bias.
Right.
But yeah, I can see from a doubting, like, yeah, I guess how the fuck would that doesn't make any sense that this would be here, or that I would know that it was here,
or that you
didn't know.
For,
yeah, you didn't know. You in just fact, went there, but your intent was to find shelter.
My intent was to ask for shelter and to find it. Yeah. Peace and respect, also Halcyon Kaiju.
Yeah.
Hey, Halcyon.
It's very interesting.
So, I mean, I only need so many hundreds or thousands of those occurrences before I'm just like, dude, this just works. I'm done fighting it. So that's what I recommend to people is that they have those experiences, because at some point you'll have to face the music. I'm not saying you, but people have to face the music that they're receiving valid information, falsifiable in reality. And you have to be able to justify where that knowledge comes from if it can't come from you. You can't go to a foreign town and look in a stand of pine trees and find shelter in that everywhere you look. It just doesn't work like that.
I guess, let's see. Can you say that the impulse has changed over time? Like it's not necessary to grab you by your backpack and steer you as much as it's just to softly hint that this is not the way, or that this is the way.
Well, yes, I even wonder if I'm screaming at angels while they're whispering to me. And I wonder
I get that feeling.
If I want, because I feel like maybe I'm retarded, you know, and I'm like, hey, could you help me with this? And they're like, yeah, we heard you, chill out.
what I'm saying is that you start. I'm not gonna say I take for granted, but like it's just that it's nothing as dramatic as it was in the first. Like when he was I want to say courting. Okay, I know that
That's fine.
no
I
homo,
get
but that's
that.
what it felt like. It felt like he was in a way seducing me with power, like showing me
Yeah.
that he could do things or that it could do things. You know what I'm saying? And so, but then it didn't continue. It doesn't. It's gotten less. I mean, there's still little things where I'll get guidance, but it's never anything dramatic, and it's never anything that I'd be like, wow, that was just miraculous. But it might just be my standards of what miraculous is now.
Our dying son. I think you're an intelligent person, and I think you're being honest. And I know the stuff that I'm saying sounds like fan fiction and sounds impossible to you. But I did no exercise. I got no surgery. I don't think there is any exercise or surgery. Um, I I have record of being in the military, and all of my siblings and my brain remember me being flat-footed. And at age 51, I developed arches from doing nothing different. And that's a physical healing, which makes me think that I'll be walking a lot in service to you. That's okay with me. I don't think that while children starve to death in Africa, I'm so cool and I'm so special, and whatever I want I get, and I get
Yeah,
arches in my feet at age 51. But
but
I do think it would be given to me in service of you.
this is a good thing to discuss though that ODS brings up because like what do most people see as proof of something miraculous? Because
Their
what
own
you just
biases.
described, okay, yeah, but what you just described was not enough for ODS. But then again, nothing like that has ever happened to ODS. So if it
But
had, maybe, or was it Our Dying Son? Is that
yeah,
his name?
yeah.
Yeah, should something like that happen, you might find that it's more than enough to convince you that it didn't come from you. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
And
you had,
how
I think what really helps is being hypercritical, and I think we should be hypercritical. But being hypercritical and skeptical means accepting the evidence that is there and not making any up. Like if you look for information from outside of your knowledge range, say it's how to figure out a math equation or something, and you go to a math text and you find it, and then that works, then it was information. And you didn't make up that mathematical equation, it already existed. So if I can go to a foreign town with no map and no reference points and walk 12 miles the shortest possible route and find my brother in a hospital that I can't remember the name of, then that was falsifiable information in reality from outside of my knowledge range and experience. That's all. You can't make that stuff up. It's not, oh, God said to me that you're going to be blessed. I see angels and white lilies dancing around your head. What the hell are you talking about?
but it goes back to what the individual considers proof, especially, and I think Halsey points out in the side chat that so many people would have walked by that camper shell, even if it had probably been in plain view and never considered it to be shelter, just because of what the expectations they have of what these things are. Like to call it a blessing, you'd have to be in a place where it would be a blessing to you.
Right, you have to put yourself in dire straits. I mean, a lot of people I think are really good at taking care of themselves, and they don't need anything, and that's why they don't get anything. They don't need it, and they don't ask.
Yeah, they're comfortable.
Yeah, which is
So
fine. They're
there's
taking. I mean, you're a responsible adult. Congratulations.
yeah,
That's
what
awesome.
if everything is status quo and fine and you're content? What miracle would be necessary? You know what I'm saying? Like what could they give you other than some sort of fireworks display? You know what I'm saying? Like what's it
Right.
going
Like,
to take
what's
to
the
get you
point?
saved? Does the earth have
No,
to swallow a man whole before? You know what I mean? Like for the individual though, ODS, like if it's you, you have your own standard of what proof is, and I mean, and I'm not saying that I could be crazy as a outhouse rat, but I'm saying like whatever is sufficient for you to go. That didn't come from inside me. I couldn't know this, but it's right. Like
yeah.
that kind of shit on an individual level, it may not prove anything to you if Richard tells you that, or if PJ tells you that, or if I tell you anybody tells you that. But if it happens to you, it'll be enough for you. And then when you try to tell anyone about it, they're going to convince you or try to convince you that there's another way and that that's not proof.
This is exactly why I'm having meditation um, exercises, or you could call them remote viewing, or you could call them prayer exercises on my channel. And I'm trying to start doing that on a regular basis, is so people can see that this stuff actually works for them. It's not some Christian's story. It's not some religious crazy wacko zealot's story. It's our story all the time. If you're brave enough to be honest. And I know that part sounds like a cop out, but I want to address House on it Kaiju real quick. I knew someone who got into an accident. He was walking and a car hit him. He was extremely devout Christian. His foot was mangled. It took months to heal. Maybe he's even lucky it healed completely, or maybe it didn't heal completely. But this is exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm glad that this had a foot in it, because it brings up a specific psalm. I will give the angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They will bear thee up in thy hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. You're not even going to like kick a rock and seriously hurt yourself. This guy gets hit by a car, but he still thinks that promises to him.
Yeah, I
That's
can I can
delusional.
I can say too that when I was through part of this journey, I was dealing with a physical ailment that was excruciating by beyond anything I'd ever known, and it lasted for a decade. And
Wow.
yeah, it was horrible, and I would pray sometimes, but it didn't change. Like it
Right. Why
wouldn't
should it?
go. It would right, but like you would think, hey, look, if you're paying this much attention to me, why won't you help me with this? I used to get mad. It made me think that I was crazy. I don't deal with the problem anymore because it wasn't going to be a miraculous healing. It was like I'm going to guide you to the right people that can help you. And it took a
That
long
ain't
time
so
for me to
bad.
get past. Yeah, it took me a while to get past the stubborn idea that there was nothing anyone can do and that God would have to do it, himself, like some magical thing. And then that wasn't the answer. And so I wasted 10 years, I guess,
I, I
potentially.
think I think that Christians, mistakenly believing they are the intended reader, adopt a sophomoric idea that God is a babysitter. Now, he is a babysitter to Jesus because, well, Jesus got stuff to do, and he better do it right, and it matters. But all the rest of us extended grace, you know? And for good reason. We need it.
I mean, I like this. I like this presentation that you have of the scripture. You know, I like it. I'm sorry that I have to compartmentalize it the way that I do.
I
You know
don't
what
know
I
why
mean?
you'd say you were sorry for that. I think you're being skeptical, and I think that's a healthy thing.
Right. But that also brings me like when I say that most of the time God leads me to places and then goes, and this ain't it, and this ain't it, and they don't know. I'm always skeptical, so I compartmentalize everybody's view the best that I can and try to keep track of it. But it's never like I go, okay, well, this person knows and this person has it. And I guess that I have that same reservation with you, and that's just natural for me.
I think you should.
But but I do find that your ideas are well thought out, reasoned. You have reasons for what you believe. Unlike a lot of the Christians that give me the same old script that doesn't make any sense. So you have
Okay.
by far captured my interest in the way that you look at it above the same rhetoric that I hear from Mondays.
William, that's giving me way too much credit. Because I'll tell you how it actually happened. How it actually happened was I was handed the reading frame on a silver platter, and I objected to it being served to me, and I didn't like it. But the reading frame dictates all this. It's not me studying. That is just not true. I never worked out the logic. I never looked into the problem of the Trinity. I didn't know such thing existed. I didn't
So
know
you
the Hebrew
stumbled
words.
across.
I didn't. No, it was just given to me, and here it is. That's it. And I'm trying to give it to
Hey,
everybody else. Here you go. Here it is. Blah. Just like that.
I like the idea that you reading it all out more. I don't know why. I probably should like it less because it has less contact with man's manipulation that way. But I can see from a lot of the text what you're saying. Like it's not that it makes enough sense to be considered more further. I can't write it
Right.
off no matter how strange it sounds because it's not illogical.
Well, I can't write it off because it has predictive power.
Well,
Like
and I also
it.
have the bias that you seem to be describing a bit of a phenomenon that I can relate to that's in the woo category for
Yeah.
me. And so I kind of have a feeling there. And normally when somebody tells me that, I'm really skeptical. But when you talk about the guidance and the direction, that hits so close to home that it almost makes me a little uncomfortable.
Oh, good.
But see, to me, it
So
wasn't a tug. It wasn't like a physical tug. It was at times
I've.
it's been like a mental smack in the back of the head, like a
Oh,
thump almost,
well,
like
I
where
got that
everything.
first
Yep.
thing.
Okay.
That was the first thing right off the brick. Right off the brick. I even said it. I describe it as a brick in the side of the head. Like God just smashed me in the head with a brick,
Okay. Let me
and
try this. Let me try this.
I
When it
didn't like it.
happened, did all the other thoughts suddenly stop, and there was just this one thing, this idea that was just left with when everything else
Oh, I
was.
didn't. I didn't even realize I went from sitting down to standing up. I did not see the room around me. My eyes didn't work, and this was the only thing that was. I wasn't even.
Okay, so I think we're talking about all that was left for me was just the idea that I was struggling against. Like, what the hell are you trying to say? And then when the smack came, it was like, I'm not saying come to this church now. I'm saying it's time for you to come to me. And then I was just like, where did that come from? But that was all that was left from the anger that I had of being directed to go to a church on a Saturday and nobody was there. And the humiliation for me even pouring all that shit that I was mad at myself about. I would say, God, either you're crazy or I am. And then all of a sudden, it was just like nothing was there. It was the
Right.
smack, and all that was left with it was this idea that not now. I'm not saying come to me now, but you are. It's time for you to come to me. That's the message I was left with for
Yeah.
like 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, I can totally see that in your. I mean, I could have predicted you saying. In fact, I did kind of start to. I didn't want to run you over. That's where it was going. That's the same thing I got. Not in the same exact way. I didn't need it in exactly the same way. I got it the way I needed it, which was pointing out the logical inconsistencies in every Christian reading frame and knowing that as I investigated more of them, they would have logical inconsistencies as well. Just knowing it. Like I can confidently say, bring me a Christian, get them to make a few assertions about the Bible, I can point out the part they're ignoring. And I know I can do that anytime with anyone that will talk to me. Anyone. I don't even care who it is. You can't have identical you can't have mathematical identity between the Father and the Son and them have different experience. But in transitivity, you have to say if they're both God, they have to both have, if they're both fully God, they have to both have all the God experience, which means they wouldn't have different experiences. But as soon as I say the Father hung on the cross, Christians will go, no, you're just wrong. Well, then it's not the same God, is it?
Because
Well,
he
now
says,
you're
I
not
do
even
what I see my Father
monotheistic.
doing, right?
When does he say that?
Don't know. I don't remember the event where he
No,
says
just
that.
what's he generally doing when he says it?
He's teaching, he's healing, he's forgiving.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah,
during the time of his three-ish years of testimony is when he says that, right?
yeah.
And what is the total idea? You don't have to quote it perfectly, but what's he saying he's doing?
He's correcting them.
He's correcting them, and he's following what guidance?
What he sees the Father doing.
Tell me when the Father did that.
I don't know. I don't know.
Jesus says the Father did this job. He says
You
it
said
in no
when.
flippant, uncertain terms.
Yeah, but you asked me when.
Yes, it's during his testimony, meaning I'm doing what I see the Father do before me, which was the time of the Father's testimony.
Okay, see, I thought you were insinuating that he was seeing the Father doing it then, like in his head or something.
Oh, he's seeing a record of it, yeah. Some kind of record of it. I see present tense what my Father, the Father, did before me, a record. It's a record.
But did Jesus know when that had happened? When the Father went through it?
Well, not at the same time Jesus is, obviously, it's some other
No,
time.
right, but I'm saying I wonder if he had any concept of when the Father had his passion.
Well, I follow the idea that Jesus would have to know, and that he has to be
But it was
fully in on it. Otherwise, he's manipulated, and the whole thing's a lie.
okay, so the other earth where the Father did had his trial or his thing.
Yeah.
Would it be a similar enough earth that if Jesus saw this record that he would go, "Oh, this is I mean, would this
That's
be
precisely
relatable?"
what I'm saying. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I'm saying anything. I was asking.
Oh, it sounded like you already figured it out. What I'm trying to say.
No,
Okay.
no, I was asking.
All right. Here's the story of Jesus. Walking around being a schmuck. Suddenly, God interferes with his life, changes the whole thing. Even got a whore for a girlfriend. Not a very godly guy. God directly intervenes. Nothing about religious folks, nothing about religious teachers, nothing about religious works, nothing about religious stories, nothing. God just pops him in the brain. It's the story of Paul. Go read Paul.
No, I get his road to Emmaus or whatever it is, the road to
Yeah.
Damascus. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
but he got struck blind and shit.
yeah, it's the story of the Father becoming. That's Paul.
Okay, but did that not happen in reality?
Sure, it happened on reality.
Okay, just making
Very
sure.
close on and into end times, including the time of his testimony during this 3.5 second years, second 3.5 years. He does this thing, and he had a Bible to read to, which told him about his Father, and he had a Bible to tell him about his Father, and I think that's how it's always been.
And perhaps always will be.
Oh, definitely always will be.
Is there an idea of what the overall end intent is, the end goal of what the fathers are doing?
So here's the experimental part that I think is true. We are the emotional animal. We experience love. We are love in the universe.
Okay.
I think we're the Jedi Knights.
Oh, you had me till Jedi. Oh, hell.
You know what I'm
Why'd you go
saying?
sci-fi? No, I don't, because I
You
don't
had
know
me
what that
when you
means.
said Jedi.
The maintainer of truth and justice.
You just converted PJ. Sorry.
I'm serious. It's one way to say it. It's a loose interpretation, but I think we're the experiencers of love, and
That's evident. That I think that's evident in just the Christian reading of the normal Christian reading of the Bible, that God created man to have someone to love him back,
fair
or
enough.
to love period.
Yeah.
because of the free will thing and the wanting us always to choose or wanting someone to choose him. You know,
Fair
there's a
enough.
lot of him chasing man down in the Bible.
I think that whenever you see any emotional expression, you're going to see that it doesn't come from the word Jehovah. It doesn't come from the words Holy Ghost. It will come from the words of the Father or an
Yeah,
angel.
yeah.
Okay,
No, I see that too. Yeah. Okay,
okay,
but these are emotions, and they do seem to be happening in
definitely.
real time about whatever he's observing, and that's where I have to walk away from the fundies because I just don't see the Trinity, and I don't see a lot of the other things that they want to talk about. But I do see God creating man to love and wanting to bridge the divide between us using the lamb, the sacrifice. And I
Amen.
see bits of that in lots of the myths around the world. Lots of the religions have similar ideas about a fall and beings from other places interfere. A lot of it comes together, and kind of a like if you step away, this story about the god and the gods, if you will, like the other things that we call gods. It's been interesting, but I want to know who the bad guys are now, Richard.
My opinion? I'll give you my
Yeah,
opinion. It's kind of hard to
yeah.
show. A naturalistic evolutionary process long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away happened on an Earth-like planet, and that animal, although it was some kind of bovinidae, some kind of like a herd animal, ended up at the top of the food chain with the highest technology and the biggest brains. They started manipulating certain creatures, trying to develop the perfect slave. They settled eventually on manipulating apes. They made a few trial runs of things that sort of worked but sort of didn't. We call those cavemen. And then they came up with us, and damn it, we were just too smart to be a slave, and we rebelled.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean they don't have their perfect slave, but it does mean they think they own us.
But that's the bad group.
Yeah, well, we call them bad names because they're bad to us, but they're not intrinsically bad. They're just
They're no threat to the father or the system that is being put in place.
no. The reason they put a slave in charge of 2/3 in government is because the slave was smarter than they were, and
Wait,
even
what?
they all knew
We
it.
okay, so this is the Joseph thing then.
Yeah. Also
Okay.
Moses.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. Would I offend you if I asked you to slow walk me through a little of this just so I can get a little there's a just okay, so there's an evolutionary process on another planet or another somewhere else. They
Yeah.
and they're smart enough to manipulate genetics or whatever here
Apparently.
on the okay, and then the thing that they manipulated the genetics of was actually smarter than they are.
Yeah. Well, there was a prophecy. One of the higher ups in government
Hmm.
of that place at that time gave a prophecy from God to the Pharaoh saying, one of these is going to take over. To me, that's the same thing as a scientist going, look, if we keep fucking around with these things, we're going to make one that you can't control. And then a whole batch of them are born. They get up to 2 years old. They can tell how smart they are. Kill the whole batch,
Why
which
did it
means the
say that to
prophecy
the
came
Pharaoh?
true. What's that?
Why did it say that to the Pharaoh?
Because the Pharaoh's the king of the world on
The
that
Pharaoh's the
world.
king of the world, but he's not he's of the bad race, the
Well, not
bovine.
not not
Not
bad
bad.
indicates that they have morals, but
Okay, okay, the well, what
evil
should I
to
call them?
us, I guess. Well, let's just say evil.
All right. Okay, the evil ones or whatever. So whatever this species, is it a species? Can we call it a
Apparently,
species? Okay,
apparently,
so
yeah.
the species of whatever the pharaoh is, they look as we might imagine them, just as people, right?
It's hard to say, but we're probably very much like them.
Hmm. Okay. then help me with the plagues of Egypt. Then, if they're the evil ones, or okay, not evil ones, but I don't even want to call them adversarial now.
Well,
You got me so
let's
confused.
just say when we say evil, it means evil to us, not evil objectively. Evil to
So
us.
tell,
Is that fair?
yeah, and okay, now help me with the plagues then with this group because this was aimed at them, right?
Right.
And this was meant to free their creation.
Yes.
So the
To get
father
Pharaoh
is
to give up
taking,
his slaves. Right.
yeah, to take for the father to take ownership of these people.
Yes. The father meaning the first human, the
Right.
father of all
Well,
humans. Yeah.
the father of all humans, but
Yeah.
not Abraham, not Adam.
Well, yes. Abraham, Adam. Yeah. Same guy.
So this is the father that is saying, "Let my people go."
Yes. Absolutely. Because of God.
You always do
That
this
is,
to me.
he has emotions and he has social structures that involve consideration of emotional animals like he is, but those in charge of him don't understand that, which is why they differentiated him by the fact that he has emotions, because they don't.
They don't.
Yeah, they obviously don't, or they wouldn't call something an emotional animal. If they were emotional, that's the same thing as saying you are me. Well, that's not a name.
All right. Well, then were the plagues literal?
Yes.
And how did Adam have the ability to send these plagues
Well, first,
to
he's in
do these
charge of
things?
2/3 of government. That's the first thing. Second of all, he's smarter than everyone else around him.
Hmm.
And he has access to science.
Okay, so there's no woo to this. This is just him using science to upset
Yeah,
the
he
evils.
was screwing him with him a hard time, and it's just like my next eldest brother when he was 13. He'd already been studying 14, 15. He'd already been studying Cobalt and Fortran for several years, and he asked to become part of the computer club, and his school said no. That's for these select rich kids who pay for their own computers. He says, I'm going to be part of the computer club. They said, no, you're not. So he hacked the system and changed all of his grades to only A's. And then they said, we know you did that. Nobody else would have done that. He goes, that's my point. You can't stop me. So they hired someone to encrypt the system. Then he hacked it again.
Hmm.
And then they spent a couple grand more, and then he hacked it again, and then they made him part of the computer club. Because they couldn't stop the kid. That's
All
how it
right, so
works. This is what he did.
then why, if they don't have emotion, does the last thing happen, the firstborn? How is
The
that
last
supposed
thing
to
happened to. I'm sorry.
the last bit of the plagues where the firstborn of Egypt were killed?
Okay, tell the story.
Those that didn't put the blood over the door, the angel of death came to, whether they were Egyptian or Israelite or whatever,
Yeah,
and the firstborn was struck down in all the households, and Pharaoh grieved, and then relented to let Israel go.
right,
That's the story as I understand it.
right. Okay, what's okay, first of all, I think the door is the door to heaven or the escape craft. So saying, taking hyssop and blood and it's like swearing allegiance. That's what it's about. Just like the all
It's
through the
it's an,
earlobe
it's
thing is.
accepting an order. To do it,
Well,
you're showing obedience. You're saying, I'm doing this thing because I believe you, and I'll do what you say.
right.
So, in a way, I'll say that's consenting to join that order.
Right. Of course, there's those who can't consent, like all the animals and plants they collected from that place and stole, quote unquote, borrowing from their neighbor everything they can get their hands on. In other words, he told all the primitive humans and all of his kind to steal everything they could, and then store it on the spaceship. And so they do, right? But then you've got like,
Oh,
the
okay. No, wait, stop, stop. How did we get to spaceship? I got where you put the door could have been the door to a craft, but I don't. I don't know how you got to spaceship in that story.
He's going to escape. He's going to escape Satan. He's going to take the Jews and all these supplies and cross an impossible desert of wandering.
But where's the space? Where's the vessel that you're talking about mentioned, or hinted at?
Um, okay, first of all, I think this was a lot longer than just like 20 years because flesh lasts forever. Flesh is intended to last forever. I think this went a lot longer than just like 20 or 30 years, like the story kind of gets read. I think he was in charge of 2/3 of government for maybe hundreds of years. After all, it does say that sons and daughters were born to them, and those daughters were fair and pretty. And then the sons of the Elohim, the powerful ones in charge, or the Pharaoh's type, saw the daughters of men, and that they were fair, and took them wives, which they chose. And you have the story.
And then
of
the mighty men would have been those like. Wait a minute, because Adam
half-breeds.
would have. No, I'm confused now because those that are like Pharaoh saw the daughters of men, and this
Yeah,
is early Genesis.
yeah.
Okay, so this is after the father has
Right.
already left the garden. I don't know if we got exactly to whether that's symbolic or not.
Oh,
But
wait. That was a whole different summary. You can't. Leaving the garden is leaving. It is the beginning of the Exodus.
that's the end.
Is the
Wait, I'm gonna have to
it,
like go and
it
beat
always
my head
happens
against
at
the
the
wall.
end of an earth, and that's why the word Genesis means new beginning.
So how many of these records of the earths and this thing are represented in the Bible?
24 so far.
And that's okay, and that's countable in each of the stories that repeats itself, right?
Well, there's 20 like baseline stories,
Hmm.
and and all the characters. The characters are types. You always have
I see a
Mary
lot
is
of
a
that.
type. Joseph is a type.
Okay.
Okay. So we have this because of human nature. We have this repetitive cycle, and we just are very, very predictable, and it predicts what we're going to be. And then you've got the one who's predetermined, and he's going to follow the rules because he realizes who he is, and that helps. Makes stuff go right. But mostly it's the intervention of angels. They've already done their exodus, and they're inviting us into our exodus, our Genesis, our new beginning.
So we'll do the
Our
same then later on.
Yeah, we do it for somebody else next. That's right. Isn't that kind of beautiful? Um,
It seems like quite a task.
yeah, well, Angel's got stuff to do. That's good. You wouldn't want to be bored forever, would you?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be bored forever. I was just like, wow. I was thinking maybe you get to chill back, enjoy, working in your garden, but it's not that kind of retirement, is it?
No, I think it is that kind of retirement for the meek inherit the earth. That is, people who are like a simple life. That's what meek means. People who are reserved, have self-control, and like a simple life will work dirt.
But not on a spaceship.
Yes, in the spaceship.
I'm gonna work the dirt in the spaceship. I guess solar lighting. I don't know how
Dude,
that would.
I know I'm sure they have artificial lights because they'll no longer feel the heat of the sun on their skin. That's a promise.
Okay. Well, that'll be fine then. I'll work in the garden. I'm good with that. I
Some
don't
people
know.
will choose that.
I'm not as persuasive as some, so I don't know that I could be much help to anybody.
But then you have the warrior types that want to go out and get killed and get resurrected into heaven again, and they go work for Michael and his crew.
What?
That's a specialty thing.
All right. Now, where are you pulling that from?
Well, it's one specific religion, but it's in the story of the Bible. When Michael and his warriors fight with Satan and his warriors, Michael loses 3,000 people. But you don't think they like permanently dead, do you?
I mean, I don't know.
And if
I
they're
don't really
restored,
know.
if they're restored, you have the Norse warrior. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, and then we do the same thing again.
Yeah.
Blood in your beer and all that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the halls
It's,
of Valhalla, where the brave
yeah.
may live forever.
Right on. I think that's the story of Michael and his crew.
Okay, so but the same crew that led under Michael, Jesus, right?
It was a, yeah.
But you're saying that Michael's not going to fight it, or Jesus is not. Wait a minute.
He doesn't
Jesus was a
leave.
Michael. Oh God.
He doesn't leave the heaven after that.
Right. That's what I'm
Um,
saying. You wouldn't be with Jesus.
but
Jesus,
he's an ancient angel.
Michael is.
Yeah, he might be one of the first generations.
Okay, so I when you say things like that, I can get behind that easier just because that slides back into the view that I can't seem to shake, which is that family, which is the sons of the father, but like an a single all father that
Yeah.
doesn't give up. And see, because I'm limited really right now, just considering this one planet. I'm trying to open my mind to these other
Yeah.
concepts, and I am reading the Bible again, trying to use the Richard lens. But there's a lot of questions that I have when I'm reading that I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to push on and see if those kind of gaps will fill out on their own based on what you've already told me. Like while I'm wearing your lenses,
Right.
does that make sense?
Well,
Just as a truer test to see if I can come to it before you tell me.
yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, there's a few people that are doing that.
But so far, I haven't had a whole lot of luck in anything predictive about what you're going to tell me. I think I know something, and then I start talking to you. I'm like, no, I don't think I know anymore. I don't know.
Well, I would recommend using the method instead of trying to like soak it up from me because I'm not even a good representative of it. When you start a story, go ahead and look up what the names mean, and then stick those words, those definitions back in there where the name exists physically in the sentences. And I think it reads itself.
Where do you get your translation of the names from? Is that
All
standard?
this there's only so many sources. Actually, there's only three.
Okay, can you give me one?
Sure. Old Testament, the Masoretic text,
Mhm.
which is the Jews told us what the darn words mean one at a time. Okay, that's the
So
Masoretic
you have
text.
like a web link or something
Sure.
like that
All
that
this is
you.
online. Sure.
Okay, well if you just hit me a text or a little the
Okay.
DM, I will
I'm giving
definitely be
you.
checking in.
I'm. I'll give you. Hold on just a second. I've got mod status here on this channel, so I could just put it right there in the. I could just put it right there in the chat. How do you like them apples?
All right.
And Blue Letter Bible has the Masoretic text for the Old Testament, and then it's got the Greek lexicon for the New Testament, and all of it is filed and organized by Strong's and his team. And you can ask like any scholar if Strong's is dependable, okay, accurate, and they will. I don't know someone who goes, "Well, I don't really like Strong's." I've never heard somebody say that. Okay, and Blue Letter Bible also has a more ancient scholar has a commentary and verification of the word in like three other languages from the area by Jusinius. So it won't just have the Hebrew; it'll have the Hebrew word, the Aramaic word, the Arabic word, and you can see that they're all the same idea. So it's pretty cool.
So Richard, in your exploration and in your research and all, have you come across any other mythologies or anything like that that sort of were close or closer to what you believe? I mean, obviously, then maybe the fundamental Christian idea. But have you come across any of the myths that are like, that's so similar to what I believe? I mean, aside from Star Trek, that's a given. You have
So
Gene
much so
Roddenberry and
that
you.
that Islam has a name for it. It's called the Injil, and it was the original message given by Allah to all the earth, and it got twisted over time, and it's no longer accurate or looked at correctly, although the truth is still there. How do you like that?
I would like to know just a little bit more about the Egypt.
So I can say to someone, a Muslim, I can say, I have seen the Injil. And what that's saying to them is, I have seen the original work of God that predates religions. And it's claiming to like see this vast truth overview kind of thing. But that's not the only religion that believes that the God gave everyone the truth to start with. In fact, it's a new idea that God didn't do that. I mean, in the history of the planet, that's a relatively new idea.
And how are the Muslims like responding? Like, how far do you get into what your beliefs are before they start really having a lot of questions?
Actually, I purposefully go on to like Thought Adventure Podcast. I'm going to say it clearly. Thought Adventure Podcast, which is depending on the day, 3 to 6 logicians, and I mean these guys are so into logic that they're arguing with like atheistic names in logic. Like they're literally having conversations with like William Lane Craig, and they're having conversations with this group of guys, Lawrence Krauss. Like they're at that level.
All right,
Okay?
so what's the name of this podcast again? I think I'm interested now.
Thought Adventure Podcast.
Thought
It's a
Adventure.
YouTube channel.
Okay, all right, Thought Adventure Podcast.
And I can go on there and say I'm a Christian. And we've had enough conversations that like I'm a moderator on one of these channels, even though I'm not Muslim. And we've had conversations, and I'm allowed to say things like, I am a Muslim, you just don't accept me, and I get no argument. And I can go onto these channels and say, this is my view, this is how I'm reading it, what are the logical problems? And they all go, actually, I have no refutations to what you're saying.
That's got to make you feel good, right?
No, it makes me feel like it's true. It doesn't make me feel good. If this were mine and I found it somehow and I earned it, it would make me feel awesome.
I didn't ask you if it made you feel proud, Richard. I said, does it make you feel good that other people can
Confirmed,
can see it?
if that's what you mean.
Yeah, just
Sure.
to say, and being honest with you, when they would have a reason, a lot of religious people have a reason to go against you.
Sure.
At least they believe they do. But these guys are like,
That's
no,
why
logically, that makes sense.
That's why I'm not really worried when Jill like insults me, or Tog, or
You mean like when he
whoever.
ran us off out of Togs just a little while ago, so savagely?
Yeah.
He routed us.
I don't worry about people like that. When I can use this theory of reading to find words that we didn't have definitions for in the King James when it was written, and I can say, if I'm right, this untranslated word is going to mean the following, and it's written in Hebrew, and I can't read or speak Hebrew. I don't know Hebrew. But if the reading frame gives me predictive power to define what the words are going to be 100% of the untranslated words. And at first I bugged Dr. Josh Bowen, who is an expert in that language, and he confirmed 3 or 4 of them, and then I started to feel bad and go, well, I stopped bugging him. I'm just going to Google them. But I can confirm that through email and through conversation on YouTube, Dr. Josh said, yep, that's right, yep, that's right, yep, that's right. That's predictive power, man. You don't get better than predictive power.
Well, you're definitely one of the most logical people I know. Almost
I'm a
Vulcan.
fan.
Maybe not Vulcan. you're
Yeah,
getting that
I'm
ballpark.
not that good.
I just hate that I responded so badly to New Life, but I don't know what it is about that guy. I can't.
I can tell you what it is.
Yeah, and when he talks to me, man, it drives me nuts. I don't know why. He just keeps on, and little buddy.
You don't
Man.
understand, little buddy. You just don't know yet, Holmes. It's you gotta have faith in the Lord, Holmes. You don't know. It's
I
okay,
think I
little
could
buddy.
You
summate
wouldn't
why
call
it's
me little
offensive.
little buddy.
I
Okay,
like when it's funny when he says it, like, little buddy.
little buddy.
It's almost like comical, like Gilligan's Island. No, Skipper, hey, little buddy.
I
It
just
is
see a
pretty
chihuahua
funny.
and a sombrero. I know that's racist, but that's all I see.
You know, it's got that metal screen door that's painted blue on the outside.
No,
I've seen that dude. I'll bet you're twice his weight.
oh,
Seriously, he's like
that's
this. He's this tiny little skinny dude.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
well, that's it.
Okay,
Normally people that do that are sorry.
so here's what I think of people who appreciate truth. They detest lies. That's why they go around telling what they think is true. Now, whether it's true or not, that's another question. But they appreciate truth, right? So then, when someone is evidently, which it took me a long time to looking at logic to figure out why I was upset by these things. But this is what I figured out about me. When someone was trying to be deceptive, right? They're trying to trick me, or if they were insulting my intellect by assuming that I must be stupid, or if they were trying to manipulate the situation, the conversation, just so that they can say that they did better than you, I would lose my ever-loving mind until I realized that they are doing it on purpose. That is, they know they're liars.
Well, I mean, I not to, I don't want to talk gossip, but I just when New Life came in and started making all these declarations about me, just because like anyone will tell you I have a foul mouth. Anyone will tell you that I can get
So
really
what?
naughty. Well, I don't feel bad about it at all. It's the way I relate to people, and people tend to enjoy my company.
Well, I thought it was kind of comical. New Life says honesty is everything that matters, and then you're talking, and then it says Will's just being honest. Yeah, he's being honest. Again, honesty is everything that matters, but he's going to tell you why you're wrong and why you're wicked. Yet, is that like accepting everything that's there before you, that the Lord put before you,
Look,
honest and true? Just
he
go with it.
chose the words he used about putting Jesus in his mouth. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't have it in me to resist that sort of bait. Like if you open that door 99 out of 100 times, I'm walking right through.
I'm thinking, what part of Jesus would fit in your mouth?
So, but anyway, like I did that with normal like guys that aren't professional victims or professionally offended. You know, you just let that roll. But okay, I see
Sure,
what you did. You want to tease a little bit, but all of a sudden,
that's
man,
fine.
I'm like this. All these other conclusions were drawn just by me saying that I'm, I guess, some sort of evil pervert, unsaved, unbeliever, all the things that he was listing,
I
and it
think
didn't
news for
matter.
you.
At
He's an evil pervert who's unsafe too, just like everybody else.
oh well, cool. But I'm not going to judge him. I think he's still a Christian or whatever. But
Of
I
course.
think I meant what I said. I think a lot of these guys come on here to glorify their own name and not the name of the Father. It ain't about learning or teaching. It's about saying, I know something you don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, you can like give him that feeling, that winning feeling. Just
Yeah, I'm God's special
Mhm.
little buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just listen to me, little buddy. I tell you things.
Hey, little buddy. I'll show you how to fix a Volkswagen, man, in the middle of the desert using 2 sticks and a rock.
If he just came and I know that Jill and Todd were cheering him on. I'm just like at this point,
Oh
it
my
doesn't do
gosh, I
me any
can't
good to
believe
try and
that.
talk. I can't talk anymore. There's no way with that much
Mm-hmm.
religious filibustering
Interference.
that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was so glad when you said that you were going to open this up because there's been none of that in here. I interrupt, but when I'm interrupting, it's because I want to catch a concept. I'm not here to tell you that you're fucking wrong, Richard.
Right. Well, I'm not here to tell you you're wrong either. For that matter. I mean, yeah, of all things available, there has to be one thing that makes the most sense, and that's just how it is. That's life, you know. And I think that everything will be made evident when the time is right for us, what they call colloquially end times. I think it's all going to be super obvious, you know, and we just have to wait.
Uh, while we're waiting, though, a lot of us are being told that you have to love and fear. a thing that they can't explain. I'm sorry, this is getting a little personal because I'm going right back to that same thing that I'm bitching about. But I don't like that I'm constantly being told that I have to fear this guy. You're going to tell me he's love. You're going to tell me that he forgives me and all that stuff. But then when I say, okay, well, I'm not afraid of him, they're like, you better be afraid. And I'm like, I don't know what you want from me, man. Like, help me with that.
He's the world's smallest pro wrestler. Hey guys, I got to wrap this up and go to work. Hive Psi, if Bree, if you show up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, we'll do that. That'd be a blast.
I agree. All right. Well, thanks
And,
for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you,
Feel like
guys.
I finally got
Yeah,
to talk to somebody intelligent. No, I'm just kidding. That's fucked up.
Well, actually, it's honest and dishonest. I think that's the difference.
Well, there's a little backhandedness towards new life there. You know, just that
Yeah,
was
well, he's not going
I
to
like
petty.
this.
Don't worry about it.
I like the guy's enthusiasm. And like, you know,
I like the enthusiasm, but the problem. Okay, if I just sit here and go, with the orange circle and the blue background and the red T-shirt and the green skin and the red nose and the big bulgy eyes and the the Bert and Ernie haircut and the square ears and all and I just go on and on and on,
yeah,
and I never go, hey, PJ, why'd you choose that icon? And you never say, well, I had this thing with rabbits when I was a kid, and then blah blah blah. I'm not getting anywhere with you,
right. I see what you're saying.
and that's what's wrong with it. Like if you assume someone, and you never have the conversation why, then you don't understand and you don't care.
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. Yeah. And just to allow it to continue like that too is mainly just put almost like a circus sideshow, and usually Talk will boot him off, after he goes into 3 rounds of that. So just
Tog likes a dumpster fire. He thinks
exactly,
he thinks
yeah,
that's
exactly, yeah. That's what
I just don't think it's funny. I want to actually know who you are.
right, and where it's coming from and why you have those beliefs and all, right? All the nitty gritty.
And I'll tell you why Mr. Lizard's in charge over there, over top of every brain over there.
Oh,
Because
right.
Mr. Lizard knows what an argument is, and none of the rest of them do.
Right.
Nobody over there knows what an argument is. Oh, peace and respect to Stephanie.
Oh, right on.
Thanks for dropping by, too. All right, guys. That's it. That's it for this morning. Maybe we might see you guys tonight. We'll see if I get bored.
Right on. Thanks, dude.
All right. Thanks, PJ. Peace and respect to y'all. Till next time, I want y'all to know I look forward to the day that we're all great friends. And by that, I mean in heaven, of course. Although I consider you guys, and most of you guys, I think you consider me a friend. I want to be a friend. I do. All right. Laters.